Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I'm here with my lovely wife, Dr. Alicia. How you doing today, babe?
I'm doing well. I'm tired. We spent the day at the beach.
Yes, we did. We're actually on our pillows this time. We were last time we were at a table,
We were
and
at a table.
yeah, we've been doing our beach time. And before we get to our topic, we'll show you. We'll let you guys know we're kind of on. I'm calling it a second honeymoon. It's our first year wedding anniversary, and we've been married officially for 1 year. And so we decided to hop on a ship and go out into the water, and that's what kind of where we are.
It's about time we finally
We've been talking about
got on this
cruising for a
cruise.
while. Yeah, we've been talking about cruising. There we go. There's that smile and
That
this.
heat, boy.
Yeah, that's me on the beach,
Oh, look at you. Okay.
feeling the heat, feeling the heat. Hey, everybody, let us know, by the way, before we get started. Give us a yes in the chat if you can hear us. We don't have the best Wi-Fi on these ships, so we want to make sure you guys can hear us. So if you can hear us okay, give us a yes. That way we can confirm that you guys can hear us okay. And also, shout out the city that you're from, and we'll jump into the topic quickly. I assure you. I pity the fool who don't cruise, says Jug House.
Yeah,
How
I know. What is that?
How's Royal Caribbean cruise ships? They are great, actually. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. King Quentin is jumping into the top. He said, and they say we're only 12% of the population. Like, interesting. Okay, okay, all right. So Cameron Douglas is out of Louisville, and Kevin's out of San Antonio. By the way, I'm sorry about the tragedy down in Texas with those poor children at the elementary school. That was,
Good grief.
whew, another. Let's move on to more optimistic topics like black fertility. Um,
Oh my
so
goodness.
give us a yes or no. How many of y'all saw the story about the brother who had 33 kids, and he took a family photo on the internet, and he got a lot of pushback. His name was Desmond. I don't have his last name in front of me. I don't know it, and that's not really relevant because I don't want to embarrass the brother or anything like that. But he had 33 kids, and he took a family photo that had 24 kids in it.
He couldn't
And
get them all together.
yeah, and so in the when he takes the family photo, his he puts up like kind of a, let's see if I have it here, some kind of like a thank you note to his baby's mamas for making it all possible. And oh, sorry, those are some of the comments. But yeah, he put up a thank you note. I don't have the thank you note with me, but he put up a thank you note to his baby's mamas, basically saying, thank you for making this possible. And there were 9 kids missing. He named a lot of names. There's a lot of names in the, a lot of very creative names. You know how
Oh,
black people.
really?
Well, you know how we are.
My
So
grandma used to call them homemade names.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I kind of like the different
Well, my
names.
sister's name is Latanja, so that's kind of. I don't
Yeah,
think
but
that's
so is you know what? We haven't heard of Latanja, but that's also the Supreme Court justice name.
Tangi, Katangi.
Oh, it's Katanji.
Yeah, Katangi Brown
Okay.
Jackson. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. So
Similar
ain't
enough.
nothing wrong with those creative homemade names. I saw some like Barnquishas and stuff like that in there. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So here was the interesting thing, right? So a lot of people had comments. They had remarks about it. And then before I get to those remarks, I want to ask y'all. Okay, so the brother has 33 kids, and he went out of his way to go on the internet. He did a very passionate video, almost like he was angry. He used a lot of terms like, beat that nigga, stuff like he was really mad because he felt that the internet had kind of clowned him. And I want to ask you all this. Assuming that he can financially provide for all these kids, let's assume that he can pay enough child support to take care of 33 children. Would you say that what he did is admirable or irresponsible? Like, is it admirable that that he populated half of Cincinnati, or is it irresponsible that you got all these kids in multiple households and stuff like that? What do y'all think? Like admirable, irresponsible, or you can choose another word if you have another word. Juanita says irresponsible. Miriam says irresponsible. Okay. Let's stop playing old school people come from big families, says Jug House. You know that's true. My grandfather had like 10 brothers and sisters. T-Boss from TLC is my cousin, and she didn't believe she was my cousin. I said, no, our grandfathers are brothers because our great grandparents had like 10 kids. Let's stop playing. Let's see, irresponsible. I've seen a lot of irresponsibles. He clowned himself. Totally irresponsible. Says too rich to miss. I wouldn't say it's neither. He's doing what he should do. Nothing wrong with that, so long as he's providing for him, says Mecie. Yeah, I think that's a good point, right? I spent a lot of time thinking about this, right? And I thought it was such an interesting topic. And first of all, I'm gonna ask my wife. And given that you're a woman and I'm a man, I do believe that that's going to lead to some different reactions. And also, you're a licensed therapist, so you saw the video and you also noticed some things from a therapeutic standpoint about his reaction. He was very passionate, very like kind of mad. He's a lot of yelling and stuff like that. What are your thoughts? What goes through your mind? And would you say irresponsible or admirable? Neither. What would you say?
I don't try to weigh in on the judgment piece. So I don't want to judge individuals' behavior. So I'm not here for that. I'm also, I don't want to get into that, but I also would like to get more into like what would be the motivation behind someone having multiple partners. What would be the motivation behind someone wanting to impregnate a bunch of different women? Because if you look at the ages of those children, he had a bunch of different women.
He got about 14 3-year-olds, and that's like a little daycare he got go. I mean, that's a lot. That's like a little baby basketball team.
Yeah. So what's going on in your psyche that you think that you should be proud of the fact that you have now probably dated, and who knows if there's any love at all?
I mean, you think they got you think you really got time to date? Who got time to date? We got Wilt Chamberlain up in this mug.
Yeah, so something has to happen in order for him to get familiar with somebody long enough to be able to impregnate someone. So, I wouldn't say that these women are just opening their legs for just anybody and just letting you go raw dog into someone.
That's a question. Somebody brought this up. I always like to see what intelligent Black people are saying about this. And just so y'all know, when I say intelligent Black people, I'm not talking about people who went to school. I know a lot of educated fools. I'm talking about people that just think, critically think. And I was really curious to see what the comments were. And somebody did ask this question. She said the main question is, who are all these women that were complicit in the creation of these 33 kids?
So what's the psyche of the women? What's the psyche of the women who probably know each other? The women who are just saying that this is okay to some extent, or are they not saying it's okay? I would almost imagine that his life is pretty chaotic. So the question is, what's happening with you that you would want to create conditions in which your life is chaotic? So what's going on deep down inside of him? How empty can you be that you feel like you need to have all these children?
Interesting.
That's part of it, and what's happening with the women. Now, he comes off as a very confident person. He comes off as somebody who's very fast talking. So, I think he's got some game. He clearly has some game. And so, again, like what's happening with someone who feels like they need to dominate a woman in that way, where they're just going to knock them up like that. So, that's the perspective that I bring. I'm not even going to judge whether it's right or whether it's wrong. I'd like to get more into how is it that someone feels that they need to have 33 children and counting. Who knows? We know. Like, how many children is enough children for you?
Well, he does look pretty young. He don't look like he's 40 yet. So he could pop out another 30 kids.
Yeah, he could have more.
It's real interesting, right? Like, I think about the fact that I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with having a lot of kids. People do it. Mormons do it all the time. Mormons be having 800 people in the family picture.
And we know from those Mormon families, a lot of those Mormon families, there's a lot of dysfunction there.
There's a lot of dysfunction, but there's also structure, though, because the Mormon Church is one of the richest groups of people on the planet. Well, like their average per capita wealth levels exceed, if I'm not mistaken, most people, right? So there's a plan. There's like there's like a code. It's like, okay, the Bible and Joseph Smith tells us to be fruitful and multiply. So we multiply. There's a structure. It may or may not involve multiple wives. I know that a lot of Mormons don't do polygamy anymore. Some do, it's like part of a process and a plan, So should we vilify, if a brother just decides to, hey, I want to make sure I'm here. My genes are here in the next generation. I'm going to pay my child support on time. Let's assume he's able to do that. which I honestly just, I mean, that's a lot of money. But I mean, is that okay?
The thing is that he's created all of these lives, all of these precious little lives, and can he create the condition of which these children, all 33 of them, can have the love and attention that they need from their father?
Mm.
Can he create the condition as a truck driver to financially support all of these children the way that they need to be supported and their mothers?
Okay.
It doesn't look like he's stopping.
Mm.
And how is it that he feels like he needs to have so many children?
Mm. Okay, well, real quick, everybody, you're watching Pillow Talk with Dr. Bush and Dr. Alicia Watkins, and my wife is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work, and I am a professor of finance. That's my PhD, and our goal is to help all of you live a drama-free life. And so, if you'd like some resources on how to build drama-free finances and drama-free relationships, feel free to visit boyceandalicia.com. There's some free resources there, and also you can find out about some other things that we do. We're going to be at the All Black National Convention in October, which you can learn about all that. Just go sign up at boyceandalicia.com, and we'll send you lots of free stuff and hopefully improve your life. There's a lot of things we can all do financially and in terms of family and relationships to make us all happier. Now, speaking of relationships, so let's get back to this brother here. All right, so this brother, Demand, they listen. I saw his name was Demand. I don't know his last name.
Demand. Okay.
And here's a couple comments I saw. One comment is, this is some slow looking ass shit. The fact that this man was out here busting all these nuts back to back is mind blowing. Okay. Somebody else says, the government needs to get their money back. He intentionally made broken homes, causing the government to have to take care of his kids. Now one thing that's interesting was he went out of his way to the hero. This is wrong on so many levels, and shame on the grandma for being part of this coonery. So, all right. So that's an interesting statement by Carrie. So I think that what's interesting is when you talk about his reaction to the internet, chaos, like people just kind of clowning him for having all these kids. One thing that he said in the video, and I listened to it probably about 4 times, is he very passionately made it clear that this was his version of Planned Parenthood. He said, my pull-out game is not weak. I don't pull out. I don't pull out. Right. And then he also went out of his way to try to show that he pulled out a bunch of $20 bills, and he's throwing up $20 bills like he's at the strip club. And he's basically saying, I can take care of all these kids. My kids are good. I thought that was really interesting for a couple reasons. One, let's assume he can pay, $500 to $1,000 a month in child support for these kids. Now his legal child support might be like $200 per child or something like that after they chop up his trucker income, because it's not going to be that high. But we know how much it costs to take care of a child financially. It don't cost no $200. Ain't no baby nowhere that weighs more than 8 pounds that you could take care of for $200 a month. So assuming he's adequately financially taking care of these kids, that would be, in my view, 33 kids, $1,000 a month. That's $33,000 a month. Congratulations. But then there's like that other question: is that enough? He's saying, look, I can make the kids and I can pay for them, but does that really make him an adequate father? It seems to me that sometimes maybe guys have never learned that, and I'd love to hear what his father taught him, if his father was there at all. Right. They'd never learned that there's a whole lot more to being a father than just paying the bills. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and how can he be there for all those children? I mean, how is that even possible? Unless he takes that money and builds a commune and puts all the children into this commune and all their mamas in a commune. Like, I don't even know how it's even possible to give those children anything about what they need for a father. And it just tells me about how clueless some of us are on what children really need in order to be a whole person.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, and again, the money thing, that's my thing. That's why I studied money for 30 years. And one thing I noticed about how, like, a lot of us, either a lot of brothers are copying rapper culture, or rappers are copying the culture that they're seeing in the street. But there's like a street culture where it's like, if I want to show you I have money, I start throwing ones or 20s in the air, and you think I have money. Like when the rapper 50 Cent wanted to prove he wasn't broke, he laid out a bunch of $100 bills and spelled the word broke with $100 bills. And what people forget is that having a bunch of cash does not mean you actually have the money that you claim to have, or that you can afford the things you claim to afford. That could be fake money for all we know. Tekashi 6ix9ine said that. The rapper Tekashi said, he said, no, that's prop money. Whenever I go on Instagram throwing up money, it's all fake, right? So what's my point? Well, my point is that if he's trying to prove that he's financially providing for these kids, not that he has to prove anything to anybody. I think that's the first thing I would try to tell him is, look, man, if that's your choice, don't be trying to argue with the whole internet. You won't win. You won't win. You just have your truth you got to live in. That's it.
So why would he even be triggered in the first place? Like, right. Here's the thing. If you are really taking care of your family, why do you have to go on social media and talk about how you're taking care of your family? You're too busy taking care of your family.
Yeah.
Like, why is he doing that? And we know it is impossible for him to give those kids everything that they need.
Yeah.
As a father, from their father.
Well, yeah. I mean, just think about how many trolls you and I have had, since we got married. Mm-hmm. And I don't give a shit. I mean, I know what my house looks like. I don't need to explain. I'm not explaining to somebody with an IQ of 12 like about my life. Like, I don't owe you no explanation. If it was really messed up, then I would have to go fix that. But the reality is, at the end of the day, he doesn't owe the internet any explanation.
Yeah. So the fact that he got so angry about it and so defensive about it is that there's probably some accuracy to the fact that he's not able to be everything that he needs to be for these children. And I'm wondering about, you're right, you bring up his own environment. Who was there for him that taught him what fatherhood is about? Or was it just an empty relationship? How could he possibly get to know 33 children like that on a daily basis? There's no way. There's not enough time in the day for that healthy sort of thing to happen.
Yeah.
No time.
Yeah. And I think it's like, look, if you're going to play that game with people where you're trying to prove that you're financially providing for these kids, I would say, okay, let's play that game. Show me how much money each child, like document how much each child is getting in monthly child support, and show me that it's an adequate amount to truly provide for that child. Like, now, if you're paying $100 a month per child, that's not impressive, because that means that what you've done, unfortunately, is you help create a situation where other people are bearing the burden of your choices.
Yeah. And who's gonna be with that? Who's going to be with that child in the middle of the night? I know how it is to raise children. Who's going to be with that child in the middle of the night when they have a fever of 103 and need to go to the emergency room? Who's going to be there for them at their soccer games? Or who's going to be there for them at their basketball games? How you going to spend Christmas? How you going to spend Christmas with people? How you going to spend the holidays? Do these children really have a father? Do they have a chance of really developing any sort of meaningful relationship with their father? How is that even possible?
Yeah, it's kind of it's a tough one, right? Because on one hand, honestly, I also look at things in terms of saying, how's this going to look 40 years from now, right?
It's going to be a lot of lonely children who are going to say, I had a father that could not be there for me when I needed them.
Or maybe they'll just be children who say, look, I'm just glad my father gave me life. I mean, I just think about it as a person who never knew my biological father. I had a stepfather that stepped in. I was very lucky. But I don't look at it like now, mind you, I don't necessarily have a lot of respect for my dad, but I don't hate him. I appreciate him giving me life, right? And I think that there is kind of a tradition in Black families where we kind of just say, okay, Papa was a Rolling Stone, and we laugh it off. Like, did you ever see that joke where they showed a pair of gator shoes and they said, if your daddy wore shoes like this, that means you got siblings you never met?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, the thing is that maybe your dad was a Rolling Stone, your biological father. And it's so funny because when I look at you, I kind of see him in you in a way. And it's really, I kind of love that. I just love that for some reason. And I think that, one thing that your dad did, he probably made a lot of mistakes. And I know we can make excuses for our parents. And I know that all of us do that. So let's make excuses for him too, so in a way, like, one of the most loving thing that your biological father did was to say, okay, I think that boys can have a better life with his
Right.
family. So
But
he was
that's
able to give you up. So, I mean, it was almost like he was able to say, he was able to do something that was to me, very
well,
selfless, to be able to say,
well,
okay,
I
take
do
my
agree.
child.
But that's not my point.
I know that's not
Right,
your
right. But
point.
I don't want to talk about my specific father like
Oh,
that.
you
I mean,
brought it up.
right,
So,
right, right. I brought it up to make a point that
okay.
that I wonder 40 years from now. Now there is a possibility that 40 years from now you could have 33 children who grow up saying, "I don't want to do what my daddy did." Right,
Mm-hmm.
that's a possibility. Or you could have 33 kids who just say, "Yeah, my daddy, he gave birth to me. I didn't know him very well because we had a lot of other siblings, but I had my brother and my sister and my 40, my 20 brothers that I know about. You know what I mean? And that's just what it is, right? Like I'm not necessarily I wonder as a society if we have gotten to that point where we think that if you don't have enough money, you're not allowed to reproduce at a certain level, right? Which we have to be really careful about that conversation, because then we start getting into that Margaret Sanger, Planned Parenthood language, where she felt like some people just shouldn't be reproducing because they're poor or their culture is bad or whatever. But there is something about this that does make you uncomfortable, because you do feel like, okay, there's no way these kids are getting everything that they need.
Yeah. So why do people have so many multiple children like this? And a lot of people walk around, they're just very empty inside. They have no self-worth. They feel very inadequate in some way. And so sometimes they have all these multiple children to kind of fill it up, to fill
Yeah.
up this sort of emptiness.
You see that with
And for him,
men and women.
you see it with men and women. I'm not saying that this is the case across the board, but I'm just trying to give an explanation. And I'm definitely not judging people who have a ton of kids, but I'm just trying to say there's something to that. There are some people who have a unresolved loss in their life. They have an attachment that went awry in their life, and to somehow compensate for that, you can have like a replacement child. That is a word, a replacement child. And just, it's almost like there's never enough there to fill in that void of why somebody would need to have so many children. Another piece could be is that perhaps some people feel like that's their way of declaring their manhood, spreading their seed everywhere. Again, that comes from a place of lack. Because if you know that you are a man and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, you don't have to go around and spread your seed everywhere, because that's what you have. You have this good self-worth. So
you're talking about that slave breeder,
yeah.
The legacy that was instilled in us on the plantation.
It gets into self-worth. It gets into self-esteem. It gets into what you think that your role should be, how empty you are, and how you fill that up.
Wow. Well, everybody, you're listening to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My wife is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. If you'd like to learn more about what she does, she sees clients on a regular basis. You can go to coachingwithdralicia.com, or you can follow her online at Coaching with Dr. Alicia. If you could take 1 second, please, and hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. One of the things we believe in is we believe in the spreading of thoughtful conversations in the Black community, and also healing of our people, so we can heal our families, get rid of the trauma, get rid of the drama, and just become better people all the way around. So if you agree with that, then we hope you'll subscribe to the channel and also share this video. And so we're talking about this brother Demand online, who has 33 kids, and he was kind of clowned for it. So he did a really passionate video. I put the video up. I'm not going to play it today because there's a lot of cussing in it, but you can find it on my Instagram. My Instagram's The Real Boyce Watkins. And on this video, he was basically kind of cussing out all of the people that were criticizing him, and basically making the point that he was providing for them financially. And he showed that by throwing $20 bills, a bunch of $20 bills in the air, which honestly, again, that doesn't,
that ain't enough money.
Right. That's not enough to take all them kids to lunch. Think about it. You take them to lunch, you spend $10 per child.
You can't even buy diapers for 33.
If you take them all to lunch and it's $10 per kid, that's $330 for one meal. 300. I mean, that's crazy. So you buy them all Christmas presents, $100 each, $3,300. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's crazy. So I also am thinking about the mothers, right? So what's the perspective of the moms? To me, how could there have been any substantial type of relationship with these mothers, with these women? I'll just say women. How can there be I mean, how can you establish and develop a substantial relationship with all these different? I don't know how many moms there are. I mean, there's got to be multiples in there.
I tried to find
But
the exact number of moms. I couldn't find the number of moms. I'm gonna guess over a dozen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so how can you really establish any sort of meaningful connection with them?
Well, one thing that you said that really made me think was you were talking about people walking around feeling empty.
Yeah.
And you were talking about the adults in that case, with him maybe having the kids because the kids kind of feel a void, or the mothers also having a void. And one of the things I really believe is that a lot of what we see is intergenerational. Now, if you consider the fact that 76% of all Black kids grow up without a father in the home, I'd be willing to bet my last nickel that he didn't grow up with his daddy in the house. And here's my point. My point on this is to say that, so what you might be seeing is some of the changes in parenting styles that are going to occur when two people get together as adults, but both of them as children never saw two parents figuring it out together. They saw their mother doing everything, right? So he grew up, let's say he grows up seeing his mother carry the load. His daddy was maybe his daddy was a Rolling Stone. His daddy would get him pregnant and then bounce out. So he just assumes, okay, that's the man's job. The man is the breeder. And then maybe the women also grew up in a household like that, where they saw their mothers struggling, working 3 jobs, doing everything on her own, because there was no man who would even stay in the house, longer than a couple of days. And I think I wonder if this is part. So when he talks about legacy, my question, the thing I want to just ask him is like, okay, yeah, you're going to have a legacy, but what legacy are you passing? Are you passing a legacy of prosperity and well-being amongst your kids, or are you passing on a legacy of generational curses?
Yeah, and the emptiness. Those kids are going to be empty, chances are, because unless their moms move on with someone. I don't know. I don't have no idea what their family life is like, but you are passing on that emptiness. And it's looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for comfort. I mean, you think about, like, why would just the sexual act in and of itself. I mean, then I start thinking, like, how is it that that's how he's finding comfort? I mean, or if he's finding comfort at all. Does he have a trail of broken relationships behind him with all these mothers? Maybe he dated them, got them pregnant, things happened, and then he ended the relationship and he's moved on to yet another one. What's happening that there's all these serial relationships? What's happening that he's not truly connecting and truly committing to one person? Why can't he? Is there a trust established? All of these things. I think I started off by saying, I bet you his life is very chaotic, and I bet you he's doing a lot of ranting in his life. What we saw on social media is probably like what he does a lot.
Well, he was definitely ranting on social media, right? And I think that does say that there's something there. But I'm not judging him for how he chooses to build his family. I hear a lot of brothers who don't want to get married or don't even want to be in a relationship because, it's a lot of work. I tell people all the time, I say, yeah, I got married, but don't think I'm telling everybody to get married, because you and I both know marriage is work. And if I wasn't ready to do the work, think about it. I got married in my 40s. It's not like I got married at 25 years old. I saw the work that my friends are doing, and I said, I don't want to do all that. So I don't blame him for that. But what I am thinking about is, when you think about your role as a father, what people got to understand, this is Uncle Boyce talking, so I hope it's okay for me to share this from this perspective. The father generally is the one who instills the confidence in his children, especially his daughter. And, like when I had the conversation with Lil Tater, and I spent a lot of time telling her, you are enough. You are enough. And I say, I'm a king, right? She said, yeah. I said, and you're the daughter of the king. She said, yeah. I said, so what does that make you? She said, a princess. And I said, don't forget, you're always the princess, right? And that conversation I felt was really important, because I saw her going through situations that will challenge your self-esteem. Now, take the father out of the picture completely. Then you have these poor, broken children going out into the world, into adulthood. And they, many of the girls, they will fall for any man who buys them a bag of Cheetos and tells her that she's cute, because she never had her dad around to tell her anything good about herself. And I think that it's And in fact, I know this for a fact. At least, this is just me speaking anecdotally here. But I do remember speaking to a young lady who, had some kids, and she was dating some guys where I was kind of like, I think you could do better than that. And when we really got to the heart of the issue,
she didn't think she could do better.
Right, she didn't feel like she was worthy of anything better. Like she would meet men that were better than the men that she picked. And she did not want the better men because she did not feel she was worthy of those other men. And part of, I believe that where that came from was the fact that her daddy was never around to say, baby, you are special, you are worth it, you are valuable. And I think that's where when you talk about a woman who says, who lays down with a man and has unprotected sex with a guy that already has 30 kids, something ain't quite right in the psyche of that young woman.
Yeah. That's what I was talking about, the psyche. Like, how could what it is that you're trying to connect to this hope that you can get this man. And there's so many people that feel like if I give him what he wants, if only I can give him what he wants, I can get what I want. And it happens so often, and so many girls come up short and feel kind of used up. So that's what happens. It's a moment. It's almost like a momentary in that moment, because that's what you have to offer to a man. You feel special in that moment, but then once he's done, he's done. He's gone on. You can feel a little kind of used up.
We know what's crazy is I've I was thinking about how like in the manosphere, how you had a lot of guys going around telling each other that it's like suicidal to date a single mom or whatever, which is like the most ridiculous stuff I've ever heard. However, it's up to anybody to make their own individual choice. But what's interesting is, what if you are the woman that does bag this man? So you win the prize. You bag a man who's got 33 kids he's obligated to pay child support on. I don't think you won a prize.
Yeah, where do you fit in that whole scheme?
You don't fit. You're gonna be paying child support with him.
Well, the thing is that he's not going to get married at this point. I would be very surprised unless something happens and he's able to turn it all around. Even at that point, it would be very difficult for him because he has all of these failed relationships. Because we know, and for a relationship to last, there has to be some level of trust. There has to be some level of care for each other, love for each other. There has to be a level of commitment and all of those things that dictate a healthy relationship. These are healthy relationships. You have to have those elements in there. And if those elements are missing, not only do these children have no father around, but they also have this history of unhealthy relationships.
Well, I'm going to tell you like this. I would never, ever, ever want to sign up for a relationship where I was dealing with that many baby mamas or baby daddies or whatever. Like if I was a woman and you dealing with a man who's got 12, 13, 14 baby mamas, 14 personalities you got to deal with, at least 5 of them going to be crazy just by pure statistical probability. Right. And, and that's the funny thing, that was where I had a lot of debates with guys that were kind of in the so-called manosphere, where they would say things about single mothers. And I would say, well, what about women that would get with men that got 4 or 5 babies mamas? How are you going to sit there when you got 4 babies mamas and say single mothers are beneath you? Like your shit don't stink. No, you bring challenges too. You got baggage too. Now, the thing about baggage though, is you can overcome your baggage. If you are especially attractive, if you got a lot of money, or if you bring other assets to the table that people appreciate, then people will look past your baggage. But
what are you talking about? Like, say more about that, boys. I'm really curious.
For example, if somebody asked me before you and I got married, like, would you marry a woman that's got kids? Would you prefer a woman with kids or without kids? I say probably I'd prefer a woman without kids, but
you have children,
right? It doesn't matter.
Okay,
it's my right to have my preference.
Okay,
right. But the thing is that everything else isn't always equal. So in your case, it's like, yeah, but Alicia is drop dead gorgeous to me. And also her kids are awesome. They're well behaved and they're good people. So I like these kids. Like, I like your children. Now, if I wasn't attracted to you and did not like your children, then it might be a different story, And I think the same thing is true with anybody, or if I had a crazy baby's mama who's banging on the door every other day, you'd be like, okay, I don't know if I want to do this. So I think that everybody has their assets and their liabilities. And in general, it's just like a company. A company can have a lot of expenses and a lot of losses, but they just have to have enough revenue to make up for their expenses. So you can have $1 billion in expenses but if you have 2 billion in revenue, then people will want to do business with you.
Yeah, it is important to take a look at someone's baggage, and that's why it's important to date for a while so that you can try to figure out what their baggage is, what their triggers are, and decide if that's something you want to sign up for. If there's too many red flags, then it might be time to just say you could date someone, but that doesn't mean you have to marry that person.
I agree with Natoya's comment.
She
says he has created a lot of single mothers who will be shunned by men brought up by single mothers and by men who are out there creating single mothers.
Yeah, that's very true. And then also, I was just thinking about how these children feel. How do these children feel? I mean, what if they all live in the same city? How embarrassing would that be to know that your dad? Think about it. They all live in the same city and they all go to the same school. How embarrassing is that?
I wouldn't be embarrassed by that.
I would. I've actually worked in a school where I've seen that before. You just be siblings right there in the same class, and I spoken. Those kids can be a little embarrassed to say, "Gosh, my dad has slept around with all these people."
It wouldn't. It wouldn't necessarily.
Some of them can be embarrassed.
It wouldn't embarrass me.
Or they may feel a little ashamed.
I don't know. I remember being that age, and I kind of saw whatever my daddy did is what he did. It didn't. What I cared about with my dad was.
You wouldn't be ashamed. It's almost like if your mama is a hoe, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, if my mama was a hoe, that'd be embarrassing.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, but daddy being a hoe ain't the same as mama being a hoe. It's not. Men, I do believe there are some doubles.
Kids everywhere.
But yeah,
I don't know how I would feel.
Well, I think it's more like
I don't know how I would feel if my father had a bunch of kids everywhere. Like I would be like, oh my goodness.
I totally get that. But I would say that it comes down to how well.
I'm just trying to see it from a whole bunch of people's different perspectives.
Yeah, I think it comes down to how well you manage your situations. Like if my father was a billionaire who had 27 kids, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, our daddy's a billionaire. He wanted to be fruitful and multiply. That's what daddy was, a Rolling Stone, but he put $100 million in my trust fund and he spent plenty of time with me. So we cool. Like I don't believe in children.
So how can he spend plenty of time with you with 27 kids with a bunch of different mothers? Like how is that possible? Like I don't know. Just talked about that.
I don't know. Maybe he just pulled it off, or maybe I was.
I mean, this is kind of.
I don't know. Again, I'm not saying I'm not saying yes or no to any particular scenario, except to say that I think everything can be overcome. Like I think that if your father did make mistakes, he can make up for those mistakes. That's my point. I mean, it's like and different.
Oh yeah. You can always make up for any mistake that you.
Let me give you an example. I never really knew my dad, my biological father, and I didn't understand why he wasn't around when I wasn't born. He wasn't around when I was a baby. I don't remember him at all. And I remember when I met him. And you know what would have made me forget, like let go of the baggage, is if he was a man I could look up to. Like if my father had shown up and had been a guy that had his shit together, who was doing well for himself and being successful, where I could be proud. Like let's say he was a famous NFL player or something. All would have been forgotten. I'd be like, I'm proud of my father. I believe children want to be proud of their dad. But the thing was, when I first met my dad's mother, I heard the adults talking about him. They talked about him like they were trying to keep it from me that he was a loser. They just didn't want me to know, but I was 14 and I was very smart. I picked it all up. So the fact that he was a loser made it only worse.
Well, how did you feel about yourself then? Like because your biological father is half of you.
How do I feel about myself? How I feel about myself. I felt that
half of you.
Yes, but my spirit, but who I am spiritually came from my father that raised me. And my father that raised me was a winner in every category that I could think of, in terms of not every category. He wasn't perfect.
So it's almost like this one man is like nothing, but this other man is idealized.
Not idealized,
so
but
it's like you.
But there's there's something valuable about putting in the time. he was there for me every morning when I woke up. He might not have been perfect every day, but he was there every day. Being there, people underestimate the importance of being there every morning with your kids. Kids will love the hell. Your mama could be hooked on crack, but if your mama is there feeding you breakfast every morning and she smokes crack while you at school and it doesn't spill over too much into family life, you'll love your mama more than anybody else.
Oh, well, even if she did smoke crack in front of you, children are hardwired to love their parents no matter what. Like, it is a very deep connection. Like, they're definitely hardwired to, idealize their parent.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I did idealize my father that raised me because he was there with me every day. He taught me a lot of the things that I know, and I saw him in his life have a lot of situations where he could have easily been like some of these other dudes. He could have been out in the street, having 10,000 babies, mamas, and living 18 lives at once. But instead, he came home every day to us.
Yeah,
I think which a lot of guys would call that simping. Now they call that simping when a man is dedicated to one family and one woman. But my father, he was a handsome man. I saw the way women looked at him when I was like a little kid, and he could have easily been like, "Man, I'm 24 years old. I'm gonna go out here and just do my thing." But he didn't. He wanted to be a family man. He came home every day. If we didn't have enough, he would go out and find a way to get it. And that's what I loved, is that he never sat around whining and complaining about his situation. He always found a way around it and to fix it. I admired that. He was a winner, and that's what I loved.
There's a lot of things admirable about the Papa Larry who raised you. I mean, he's got a lot of great qualities. I also think that probably, and we don't know, but probably your biological father also has some gray areas, probably some areas where he felt it came up short, but then he probably also has areas where he was really admirable too. And so I think it'd be nice to explore one day.
Maybe one day.
So that you can, I mean, it's just for you boys so that you can have a complete picture.
Yeah. Well, what it
is.
And
not just like
the thing about it, the thing I have to tell you, the truth is, with kids, time matters. And this is where I would challenge this brother that had 33 kids is, now my biological father never paid child support to my knowledge, but my mother never asked him for it.
Remember, it was adoption.
Adoption, exactly.
Right. So it's just,
right.
And he agreed to that.
Right. And the thing is, I interviewed extensively his other two children that were in the house with him to get a full view of what kind of man he was. I always wanted to know, like, did I miss out on something? Did I miss this amazing man and never got to? I didn't get any indicator that was the case.
Right.
But what I will say, though, is overall, time matters. So I think that when a guy has 33 kids, what I would love for him to really understand, or possibly maybe even explain, since he likes to talk on Instagram, maybe you can get on Instagram and do a video about this. How do you manage to get the time to spend with 33 kids? Now, if you said something like, I meet with them in groups of 8, and I spend 3 hours with,
I thinking about that.
I would get that. Like, that's like coaching 4 basketball teams or something. I could, that would be cool. I'm not saying that's.
He's got to have red zone, blue zone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's got.
Yeah, because
they can run scrimmages and everything.
You know what I'm thinking? Like, there's 30 days in a month, so he's got to give every child a day. Every child, there has to be one child has to get 2 days, more than 2 days. So, like, give every child a day of the month. I don't know what he'd do in February, but because it's a 28 days.
It's not. Well, remember though.
But to give them enough time.
Well, he wouldn't have to spend time with them one at a time though.
But I think that's important.
And it'd probably be better to have them like 5 or 6 at a time because they could play with each other.
Or unless he grouped them into age.
And remember, he could also
group them into age and gender,
like an elementary school.
He could section out. He could zone it. He could say, okay, all my daughters between the age of 0 and 3, I'm going to be with you on these 2 days. And then all of my sons between the age, like, he could really like section them out. If he got the moms so coordinated together that he can get them all, at least most of them all together in one room for a picture, they can definitely coordinate a little better. And like try to figure out how he can zone those kids out so that he can actually spend time with them doing age appropriate things. Because I'm thinking like, okay, so when you're like school age, your needs are different. So school age, you might want to put them together. 5 to 7, you got to group them out developmentally. 0 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7. and then maybe 7 to 9 and 9 to 11 or something
Well,
like that.
I think
And then
that
section them out.
I would love to hear what the plan is. Like what his that's a possibility.
If he doesn't have a plan, he should listen to this, because I think we just came up with a good plan.
Yeah, but remember, you still got to make time for him to go out and meet more women.
He cannot.
He's got to like
listen,
keep going.
Moratorium on meeting more women.
He ain't done yet.
No, you know what it is. I bet you he's circling back around to the other women. Because if you could bag all those women, like why would you try to pick new ones? You would just circle back to the ones you already got.
Of about 15 or 16.
He's got to have multiple children with at least 1 or 2 women.
Well, you know what's interesting, and this is something I thought about too, and this is the one area where I would probably, hit the pause button on this. Like, I don't judge somebody for saying, okay, I want to just make a lot of kids. Right? I don't know if that's ethically something you can judge. I mean,
can you imagine the hospital that's just like signing the birth certificate and just like, oh my God, we got all these kids with the same name. Same name as the could you imagine that?
Well, what I was thinking about was not so much that. It was more so like STDs.
Oh my God. We didn't even talk about that.
Right. We haven't nobody really talks about the STD aspect of this, but think about this. He clearly likes sex. In fact, he might even fall in the category of a possible sex addiction or something like that, but I'm not putting that on him. I'm just gonna say you got 33 kids. It takes a lot of intercourse to make 33 kids. So, and you're not wearing a condom, right? So that's 33 times at least, probably in the hundreds though, where you had sex without a condom. Now, I'm gonna ask everybody in the chat, when you were dating, how often did you have sex without a condom, especially with somebody that you knew?
To put that in the
right?
chat?
I would ask everybody, like, think about it, like a lot of people.
That's a personal question.
Sure, there are some people that aren't responsible. Some people don't even think about it, right? They'll just do it with anybody unprotected. But a lot of people, even if they're getting it in, even if they just love to do it and they're doing any and everybody, anywhere, anytime, they're safe about it. They put a condom on. So he's clearly making a point, like, I don't put a condom on and I don't pull out. Okay, so so that's
proud of that, boys.
Right. So that right there kind of says that there could be even more issues that we don't even know about.
Well, of course there are.
And here's the thing.
We just scratching the surface.
Well, here's the thing.
Of the mental health issues.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Nobody talks about that. Like when they'll just talk about sex as if STDs don't exist. Like somebody made a joke. They said, "How many women do you think Chris Brown has smashed?" And somebody said, "I don't know, probably about 10,000." And they just laughed it off.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Do you think it's possible for a person to have sex with 10,000 people and not catch every disease in the book?" I think about it, right now, they got monkeypox going around. Like monkeypox is out there, man. Did y'all read that? Like, I'm not judging. I'm not judging nobody's choices. It's okay. Like, sex is fine. Do it. But seriously, like, literally, they trace monkeypox to these, like, gay rave parties where these dudes are going in there just raw dogging men that they just met 10 minutes ago. Monkeypox.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I kind of feel like it's that. So there's like a deeper conversation that really needs to be had beyond just like getting pregnant is not the worst thing that can happen to you.
Oh, he's been to the clinic a lot.
Has he?
I'm certain.
A lot of
he's
brothers,
been to the clinic.
I don't know. I know a lot of brothers ain't been to the doctor since they were newborn babies.
Oh, he gonna have to go to the clinic.
Get
his stuff checked out.
I don't know. I mean, sometimes you have people that feel like they're invincible.
Mm-hmm.
They feel like they can't happen to them. And, like, or for example, like I think about things other people don't think about. Like when Eazy-E died, I thought, wow, he had sex with probably 5,000 women before he died from AIDS. I wonder how many of those women caught AIDS too. And you just don't know their name because they weren't famous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I just really think that people, when they're looking at the madness, this is one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of critical thinking skills. I think critical thinking skills are a must for Black people, because if you just go along with what everybody else is doing, it can put you in tough situations that nobody can help you out with. You have to look at something and say, wait a minute, everybody's doing it and everybody's acting like it's okay, but it doesn't feel okay. And I think you got to go with that instinct.
So what you tell me, since you want to talk about critical thinking and about having sex with a condom or without one, like, what are you thinking? What's happening that this is not going on? Because I think what we know is that if a man doesn't insist, typically, that it won't happen. So there's a lot of unprotected sex, generated because a man is just like, let's not do it. It's usually the man that initiates, and women go along with it. That's what we know. That's from the data.
Right.
From what we know.
Right. And I kind of think, don't get me wrong, everybody isn't gonna subscribe to this. But if I'm talking to any young person who wants advice from me, I would tell a young guy, like, look, you should work hard and become successful. When you work hard and become successful, women are gonna want you, and women are gonna want you because you live in this weird hyper masculinized society where people, or better yet, it's a feminized society where people respond to it with hyper masculinity that tells you that anytime a pretty girl wants to sleep with you, you're supposed to take it. I advise you to be more discerning and intelligent about where you plant your seed, because all those situations will get you in trouble. They will cause you problems. They can ruin your life. They can destroy you. It's a trap. It doesn't mean don't do it. It doesn't mean don't enjoy your life. It just means be discerning about it.
Because, how can it destroy you to have a baby?
Well, what can destroy you is not having a baby. It's that.
How can it ruin your life because you have a baby?
No, it can.
Are you talking about
it's not having a baby. It's when you get to that point where you get a lot of attention from women because maybe you have money. Like I experienced that. I get a lot of attention from women because I was rich, I was very smart, and I was very famous. So you'd be amazed how many women slid in my DMs and everything else. And the thing about it is that as a man, it's like being a kid in a candy store. And if you put a kid in a candy store and he eats every piece of candy that he can possibly see, and you never tell him no, he's going to die from diabetes. He's going to just eat himself to death. And instead, I just tell guys, look, earn your way into the candy store. You earn your way into the candy store. You earn female attention by being successful. What? Let's just wait on. Let me finish point. Now I'm going to be quiet. So you earn your way. You earn female attention by being successful and rich and all these other things. That's what women love. Women like men who are successful and wealthy, period. Good for you. So now that you're in the candy store, pick you a nice piece of candy or more if that's what you want. Just always be mindful, though. The gluttonous behavior almost always brings a type of karma into your life that could destroy you. Look at Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, had all these women chasing him, and he decides he got to get head in the White House, and it damn near ruined his whole legacy. Look at Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby had a beautiful wife and all the women in Playboy Mansion he wanted, but he took things too far. Now his whole legacy is destroyed. So what I'm saying is, an intelligent man has to know discernment and moderation and some degree of discipline. If you don't know those things, then whatever you built up, whatever you created, somebody's going to come along and destroy it. And they're going to use sex as the weapon to do it because they know that men become very weak when it comes to sex.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that if these men, we get messages, men get messages that their manhood is tied to how sexual they can be and how many notches are on their belt. I mean, we get that. We get those messages. And it is a big deal to think about who you settle down with. So, someone like Bill Clinton, though, I mean, he has a problem because he was under investigation. He was under investigation with another lady while he was messing with Monica Lewinsky. So that tells you that there is something else going on. Like, we're investigating you. And meanwhile, he's with Monica Lewinsky in the White House.
Oh, Bill was getting busy. Do you know Bill used to have prostitutes brought in with police escorts and stuff?
Yeah, all
when
of
he
that
was governor of Arkansas.
Oh,
and that's what it is. I mean, and there's other stories. I mean, I remember Al Sharpton telling me stories about Muhammad Ali and the women. And Muhammad Ali is literally my second greatest hero behind Malcolm X. I love Ali. I'm from Louisville. I walk the same streets as this man. I love Muhammad Ali to a T. But one thing that I always focused on, as an act of critical thinking, is I always learned to critique my heroes. And so as much as I love Ali, the thing that brought him down was his addiction to women.
Mm-hmm.
The women were the ones who took all his damn money.
They did.
Ali right. And what saved him?
All those children.
Right. Yeah. All them kids, all them women. And then when Ali was all, very slurring his speech and couldn't box no more, those women were gone. They took their money with their new husbands. They were doing all right. And what saved Ali and his legacy was a good woman. See, a bad woman can destroy you. A good woman can save you. Lonnie came along. Lonnie really loved him, and Lonnie said, "Wait a minute, we got a $1 billion legacy here. Let me use my MBA from UCLA and protect this." And she did. She did a great job.
She did a pretty good job protecting him.
Yeah,
there's some things that I would have done differently.
Right.
But
I get it. I get it.
There are some things I would have done differently if I was Lonnie. I mean, I think he was gone past his years, and I think we saw him a little too feeble.
Yeah, well, it was
that was the only thing.
It kind of putting him out there in front of the world, kind of looking like that was kind of sad.
Yeah.
But still, though, I just really think that, so when you look at Ali's life, it's like, I get it. You're Muhammad Ali, you're a world champion. The women love you. You love the women. Your appetite is, pretty almost insatiable. But where's the line? That's the point.
Well,
I think
what I see with Muhammad Ali's life, though, was that there was never, again, when I talk about how there's never enough, it's like he had way too many women than he needed to have. He had way too many children. I mean, a lot of kids with a lot of different women. He also had way too many fights that he didn't need to have. Right? Like we watched the Ken Burns documentary about Muhammad Ali. It was just like, okay, he needs to be done. He needs to stop fighting right now because it's having a terrible impact on his health. But he needed that limelight. It was never enough.
Well, I think also he needed the money. I think that once he got to the point, and this is something that a lot of athletes fall into when it comes to child support issues and all that, is they get to a point where while they're young and making big money, they get a lot of financial obligations, and then they can't afford them later on. So they have to keep boxing and playing basketball.
You can go back to court.
You can try
and adjust. Like, oh boy, remember I sent you that article?
Jesse Williams,
about Jesse Williams, who went back and said, "Hey, yeah, I was making $6 million when this child support was established, but now I don't have that acting gig anymore, so we have to adjust the child support."
Yeah, and I think the hard part is that sometimes they don't adjust it as much as they need to, and by the time they adjust it, you have to really prove that you're really broke. And
well, you should prove that you're really broke, because there are a lot of men who get away with. Right. I'm sorry, there are a lot of men who get away with paying child support when they really should be paying a lot more.
I do agree, but at the same time, though, the fact that you have to be Jesse Williams, an actor who's been acting for 25 years, and prove that you are absolutely destitute, that's humiliating.
You just show how much you got. You show your bank account.
I get that. But what I'm saying, though, is that it shouldn't have to get to that point. Keep your shit in your pants in the first place, so you don't have to go ride that roller coaster ride.
He was married with these kids. I mean, he was married.
Or just prepare you. I mean, I think you can protect.
He was married.
Yes, but I do believe in asset protection. I think that you have to protect your ass and your assets.
Okay.
And a lot of times, if you are simply reacting to what's going on in your life right now, you could create situations that are going to be hard to maintain when your money ain't flowing like it used to be.
Well, the thing is, all you do is show a pay stub. You just show your pay stub, and that's the end of it. Like, the court it's not that complicated. You show a pay stub.
It's not, but it's not. But I don't think it's as easy.
It's not that difficult.
I don't think it's as right. I think it can still be tough, right? And I would just say, and I just say to guys and that's another topic we were going to hit at some point. Is there was the one guy who, before he got married, he literally gave his new wife half of his retirement account and half of his her name on the deed and stuff like that. And my thought on that is that, the same way women have to protect their assets as a form of financial intelligence, I think men should too. I don't think you should have to be in a situation like Jesse Williams should not have had to go through the experience of having $40K in child support and then having to go to court and humiliate himself and talk about how poor he is.
He didn't talk about how poor he was. He just said, "I'm not making $6 million anymore."
Right.
So at the time when he was paying the child support, he had enough money to pay it.
Right.
But he's like, I don't have that acting gig anymore. It needs to adjust. And it's a shame that they had to go to court, because his ex-wife should have I don't think you need to go to court. I think you just sit down with the other partner and say, okay, let's see. Okay, so you don't have Grey's Anatomy anymore. Let's adjust it on something that we can do. You don't need to go through the courts to do stuff like that.
Well, either way, I would simply, I think that there's ways to protect before the fact. And I don't think guys think long term. Like, Jesse should have known when he was making big money, like, this money's not going to last forever. So how do I put myself in a situation where by the time the money's not there anymore, I'm still earning enough income to continue the obligations that I
Well, I
made for
don't think he
myself.
was broke. I don't think he was broke. It's just the life of an actor. You know, sometimes
Yeah.
they get gigs, they make you go on auditions, you get something, you adjust the child support. I mean, it's a little squishy because it's like
Hmm.
you just never know. Like the series could be cut at any moment. I don't know the life of Hollywood people, but I imagine that you get money when you're on sitcoms or on TV shows, and then sometimes the show gets dissolved, and so your money gets dissolved.
Well, everybody, you listen to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. This is my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. She's a full professor of social work and a licensed therapist. And one of the things we believe in is giving you tools to live a drama-free life. That means drama-free relationships, drama-free finances. And so if you'd like some free resources to that effect, just sign up at boyceandalicia.com, and we have some free stuff that we can send you that can help you with that process. And also, I'm a big fan of critical thinking skill. And so, speaking on this issue, one thing I'll say
Mm-hmm.
is, I think that when I see scenarios like this, right? This brother had 33 kids,
And counting, I'm
right, and
certain.
counting, right, and I see a lot of guys like that. I see guys crying in child support court because they can't pay the child support, crying in divorce court because they've gone broke now. You worked for 30 years and now you're starting over from ground zero. And one of the things I think that Black men have to have is some sort of a critical thinking skill, the ability to be strategic. And to me, strategic means that you don't have to hit rock bottom before you start fixing everything. You have to learn from the people in front of you. And I'm not judging. I'm not judging what this guy did or anything like that. But I just say I've just seen it 1,000 times where guys go broke because of their penises. And even when you're talking about getting married and stuff like that, I know that when I took my time to get married because I wasn't gonna let anybody tell me what to do. And then I even decided when I get married, I would prefer to marry somebody who's got assets of her own she's trying to protect, as opposed to somebody who's going to feel like they have to have all my money in the event of a divorce. Because divorce courts take up $10 billion a year out of people's families. A lot of families go broke from that. So I would just say that anybody in here that wants to be successful, you got to plan your family properly. Like if you're a guy and you're splattering kids everywhere across the country, it's going to be really hard for you to go build any kind of empire when you're taking care of, 14, 20 kids. It's just really tough. And I think for women, you got to think about the types of men you lay down with. If you got 4 kids with 4 different guys and, all this other chaos, then, you could end up in some economic traps that you can't get out of. And a lot of this does come from slavery. I think that when you talked about tying sexuality to masculinity, I think we got that from slavery. I think that's the big buck slave who's running around and, on the breeding farm and impregnating all the women. And I just think that mindset has to be challenged a little bit to say, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing to yourself? What are you doing to these children? What are you doing? What are you really doing to your legacy? Like, are you really creating a legacy and guaranteeing your legacy, or are you creating more trauma?
What are you married to? I mean, that's the question that I ask a lot of people. Like, what are you married to? Like, people who aren't married to an individual. Okay, so suppose, Boyce, you're 50 years old. I mean, you're 50 years old, you're married to me, but suppose there's a man who's 50 years old and he's not married. He's not married to a person. He's married to something, though. Sometimes we are married to our ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're married to a thought that women only after me for my money. So if you're married to that, then that's what you're going to see in your life.
Mm-hmm.
What are you married to? Are you married to hate? Are you married to contempt for women? Are you married to destruction? Are you married to the idea that you got to have all these kids? Are you married to the fact that I'm only going to see women as someone that I can plant my seed? Is that the idea that you're married to? What is it that you're married to? So a lot of us are married to something. Even if it's not a person. We're married to our ideas and we're married to our thoughts and feelings about something. And that's what we see in our life.
Well, I wish him the best. I don't. I didn't. I wanted to do this podcast really to have a conversation about it, not to talk about where he's wrong or whatever. I will say 33 kids is a lot of work, but if he knows what he's doing and he's got it handled, and most of the parties involved are happy with the situation, then who are we to criticize?
How could he know? How could he know?
How could he know what?
How could he know what he's doing? How's that possible?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's just, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't do this. Like, I wouldn't have 33 kids, but I'd be curious to hear his logic as to why, you know. And remember, he can't have those kids by himself. So there are women that, for whatever reason, became complicit in the process. I think another thing that,
how can he love those kids? How can you really show and give love to all 33 of those children? First of all, in order to show that you love your child, you have to also show love and respect and gratitude and appreciation for the mothers. He has to show that for the mothers, because if he doesn't have respect and appreciation and gratitude to the mom, how can he show that for their children? It's not possible. The best way to love your child is to love the parent.
That's true. That's true.
Because your children see how you treat them. The children see how he treats their mother. So he has to treat, the one, if I could give him any advice, it would be he has to really show the utmost level of kindness to the mother and appreciate all of that. All of the respect that he could possibly give has to be given to the mother, or the children will internalize it to say there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with my mother. There's something wrong with me.
Well, one thing I think about, I guess shifting slightly from what you said, is I feel like,
and they got to love him back too.
Right. I feel like in our society, they push the idea that sex is just this really pleasurable thing that you do, and you do it with anybody that looks good. And you don't think about any of the consequences. You don't think about STDs. You don't think about unwanted pregnancies. You don't think about poverty. You don't think about damage to the children. People just kind of just do whatever feels right in the moment. And I'm just going to say, I would encourage any Black person that is listening, to just grow out of that. Like, I really kind of feel like, I don't know if it's media or if it's hip hop music or what, that has created like this almost incessant immaturity and just lack of thinking. Like, it's encouraging people to be stupid.
Yeah, but people have needs. People have an emotional need.
I get it that people have needs, but some needs are just fucking stupid. Like,
no, it's not stupid. Listen, it makes sense. Okay, I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna jump in a little bit. It makes perfect sense that if you're walking around in need of love and affection, it makes perfect sense that you're going to look to somebody and say, this person is giving me attention. It feels good. It's comfortable. I need to have that sort of outlet.
Okay, I get it.
That's a basic need, because we know
I get it.
that children need that comfort.
Well, remember Kevin Samuels said, get a dog.
I don't know why
I'm being silly.
You want to keep talking about Kevin Samuels, but the thing is that you have a whole bunch of empty people walking around, and they need, and I'm sorry, but they don't need money. They don't need they need love and affection, and they're not getting it. And so they're looking for love in all the wrong places. That's what's happening. And this is a need that is above and beyond nutritional needs. It's above and beyond food.
I hear that.
It is a need for love.
I definitely hear that.
And affection.
I definitely hear that.
Because they're empty people walking around.
I definitely hear that, but I think that sometimes we forget about the difference between needs and wants. Like a lot of men.
That's a need.
No. I've heard men say, I need to have 4 women at once. Right? And obviously that's not a need. That's a want.
What they're really saying.
No, whatever they're saying. They may just feel like, one woman just don't do it for me. I need to have a woman and 4 side chicks. I've heard men just kind of say it that way, right? Or I need a side chick that can help me relax, and I need a main chick that can be my stable one. And I'm not saying
they need love. Is what they need.
Okay, I get it, right? But I will just say, overall, sex is powerful. Sex is a dangerous game if you play it the wrong way. And I really think that
I don't see sex as something you play, though.
But no, not for you. But I'm saying that in general, like, I just really think that in general, in our society, particularly through entertainment, I don't think that it's encouraged to be strategic and intelligent when it comes to like the choices you make when it comes to sex. Like, do you know how many times I had opportunities to do stupid stuff with women where she looked at me like I was crazy because I was like, no, why would I sleep with you? I don't even know you. But don't you like me? Yeah, I like you, but that don't mean I got to be putting my seed in your body. That don't mean I got to be trusting you right now. And it was and I could just think of times where that was like a foreign language, because I think that there are people who live. They talk about different cultures. Some cultures encourage instant gratification. I believe African American culture, we because of media, what we see like in music and all that, it encourages instant gratification. If I want some chocolate, if I have a need for chocolate, I'm gonna eat chocolate, and then I'm gonna get obese, and I'm gonna die from diabetes or something, And we know that that's what happens to lots of Black people. Or if I'm hungry and there's a McDonald's, I need to eat, so I gotta go get a cheeseburger.
Yeah, well, I mean,
but you don't have to eat a cheeseburger. You could have ate a salad.
What are you talking about, boys? Do you know how much a cheeseburger costs compared to a salad?
Yeah, but still.
Do you know how hard it is to get fresh fruits and vegetables in some neighborhoods?
McDonald's salads don't cost that much. They're always on the menu right next to the cheeseburgers, and people do not order the salad.
Oh, jeez. What I'm saying is that what am I saying? Oh, I'm saying is that people make different choices. People make different choices based on how much money they have too.
I think they do.
But, the choices of the food that they eat.
If you can afford a pair of Jordans, you can afford a salad. But that's beside the point. My point is to say, overall, I don't think that there is, like, if I started a school tomorrow, I would literally have a class on critical thinking skill, how to make decisions in your life by looking down the road and thinking about the consequences of those choices. Okay. I really don't think that that's encouraged. I think that everybody sees other people making stupid decisions and ending up in stupid situations, and they think it's okay because everybody's doing it. Well, I made the same mistake as everybody else, so there's nothing wrong with me. But did you know better? Did you know that sleeping with this guy with 8 kids, was going to put you and your children in a horrible situation? Yeah, I knew it. Why'd you do it? Well, because I was lonely, or because his penis was good, or whatever. It'll be something like basic like that.
Well, it's just an excuse, because when I was talking about how the need and the desire for the closeness and the love and affection from another person is very strong in a lot of people who don't feel like they get it, who don't walk around with a high sense of self-worth. People are walking around and they are very empty. And so it is just as much of a need as it is for a cheeseburger.
Well, I can say
life-sustaining need. You just get fall into stuff.
I do get that, but I can just tell you, honestly, and again,
I'm just explaining. I'm not saying that it's right.
It's hard for me to share this without people thinking I'm trying to be arrogant. I'm not trying to be arrogant, but I achieved a lot of my goals in life by not doing the other shit that I saw other Black men doing. The shit they thought they needed to do. Like, everybody drinks. You have to drink. I was like, no, I don't need to drink. Why do I need to drink just because everybody else is drinking? You don't even like the liquor. Like, why do I need to go to the party and the step show instead of studying because everybody else is doing it? See, a lot of times we might call it a need, but bad choices sometimes are just done because.
So going to a step show is a bad choice? Like,
no, I didn't say going to a step show is a bad choice. I'm saying that when you're always choosing the step show over studying. Oh. And I knew guys like that. I knew guys who slept with way too many women because that was just what everybody was doing. Guys who drank way too much and now they're alcoholics. Guys who would, who didn't want to do any work, didn't want to prepare for the future, didn't want to invest, didn't want to work hard, didn't want to study. And then their lives became a complete mess. And then you're like, well, what did you think was going to happen when you were sitting your ass on the couch, not doing what you needed to do?
Okay, so you saw a lot of extremes.
Right, I'm saying that the luckiest thing my father did for me was my father taught me as a kid, stop making excuses. Stop acting like you need to be lazy. You don't have to be lazy. Sure, being lazy, it's great. It can be refreshing. You can clear your head, and maybe you went through some trauma that made life hard for you. My father was the kind of person he's like, you better get over it. If you want to be an adequate father for a household, you can't always be so up in your feelings that you don't have any discipline about the choices that you make in your life.
Wait, so what is that? So being in your feelings mean you don't make disciplined decisions? I don't know about that.
If you allow your feelings to define your decisions for you, that's not discipline. Your feelings should not define your choices. You can have your feelings. Sure, that's what your therapist is for. You talk to your therapist, you call your grandma and cry about it.
I'm trying to understand, like, how is it that feelings Like, I don't get
feelings
that.
are okay. We all have feelings. The question is, if you and I have the same feeling, it's like Will Smith. Will Smith had a feeling when he said, "I want to go slap Chris Rock because Chris is talking about my wife."
Well, he had
A
a thought.
lot of men, he had
He
a thought.
probably felt very
Okay,
angry.
right. He had a thought and he had a feeling that led to an action. But a lot of men could have that same thought, that same feeling, and not commit that same action. So I think
Okay,
that
so
when
it's not the feeling, it's the action. Because what I'm now that I'm listening to you a little more, what I'm
Mhm.
hearing you say is that it's more so you have a feeling and you're showing your emotion in the way that's not helpful for the family. So really what you're saying is not that it's not about your feelings, it's about how you behave, because all of us have feelings and feelings are all normal.
Mhm.
Even men, even very masculine men like your dad,
Yeah, we all
he
do.
has feelings and his feelings matter. But where I think what he was trying to tell you is that you don't always have to be impulsive. You don't always have to act in a way that's not conducive to building the family
Yeah.
and commitment to the family. So I think that I don't want us to feel like being a man means you don't have feelings and fuck feelings and all of that. I know
No.
that's not what you're trying to say.
No, no,
Okay.
I'm not saying that at all.
Okay.
I'm saying that all those women he made those kids with didn't have to sleep with him. They might have been lonely, but they could have found another way to deal with their loneliness other than allowing some man that's got 18 kids and 88 diseases put his penis inside their body. I'm not saying that he has all that, but I'm saying that if you're having all that unprotected sex with that many women, that's not a safe scenario to step into. And if you're a smart person, you're not going to put
Mm-hmm.
yourself in the harm's way like that. Like, don't get me wrong. I get it. You know, like guys might go, I've heard guys say, "Oh man, I was at a club and the stripper looked so good. I just had to do it with the stripper and I didn't I didn't have no condoms in me." Well, not every man is going to react that way. A smart man's going to say, "Yeah, she looks really good. Yeah, I'm feeling like I really want to do this." But the
You don't have to
consequences,
behavior.
right?
Okay.
The
Yeah.
consequences
Yeah.
could be disastrous. I'm gonna get on out of here and I'm gonna go find a safe space to
Right.
express what I'm feeling. And that's what I'm saying. It's
Okay, I got that. Now I'm glad you explained it a little more because it makes sense to me. And I do want to comment on something else you said because you made like really, I don't know, it just sounded kind of extreme that like drinking in college it ruins your life and going to step show ruins your life and all you're supposed to do in college is study.
I didn't say that.
So I don't know. I got that
But
impression.
that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, all right. So what are you saying?
I'm saying that you
Uh-huh.
go to every step show you want. My sister went to every party, every step show, and I think she drank in college. But she also was a straight A student. And the reason was because she understood priorities. She would study first and then go to the step show. She would study first and then go to the party.
Okay,
You know what
so
I'm
your
saying?
sister was well
Right.
balanced.
I knew right. And what I'm
Okay.
saying is I knew a lot of people who would go to the step show before they study and then they never get around to actually doing what they're supposed to do.
Okay. All right. That's what I just wanted to say. I mean, if you're 21 and you're in college drinking, in moderation, as long as it's not like binge drinking or it's all irresponsible, it's not the end of your life. You're not going to ruin
No,
your
I
life
don't think
because
it
of that.
I don't
Okay.
think it is. I think that
Mhm.
it's not taken seriously enough.
Cuz I had rum punch on this trip
Yes you did.
and
Yes you
it was
did.
lovely.
Yes it was. And I remember how much fun you had with the rum punch. Yeah, I think that everything's fine in moderation. You know, and that's the thing. Even when you talk about things like sex, I mean, let's just keep it real. Everybody loves sex. Sex is awesome. Sex is a
Mhm.
great experience, and not everybody has sex when they're supposed to be doing it with who they're supposed to be doing it with. I get that. That makes sense. That's life. But what I'm saying is that there are some points where you have to draw lines in your choices, or the consequences come knocking. And I don't know if everybody got the opportunity to have parents that really taught them that your choices have consequences and those consequences belong to you and they're the result of your choices, not the result of just the white man or society or racism. Those
Mhm.
things are there for sure, absolutely. But one of the best things my parents ever gave me was they told me you're responsible for your life. So if I was sitting there, and I had 14 kids and 12 babies mamas and I was crying about the child support, my father would be like, well, what were you thinking? You weren't crying when you went to their house and had sex with them, so why are you crying now? Man up, deal with it.
Mhm.
And I really don't know if a lot of people get that message.
Well, that's what this guy was doing. He claimed he could man up.
Well, he had a big stack of 20s.
But I still question that whole thing, of course.
Big water money, nothing less than a 20. If you need a 5 on the dope, man got plenty.
Oh, that could be something.
What?
Do you think that maybe he kind of, because I'm
Oh,
thinking as a truck driver, how is a truck driver coming up with all that money?
We ain't gonna put that on
maybe
him.
I don't know.
He did give off some
maybe
major,
he could be some underground.
He gave off some dope man vibes, but
Okay.
I'm not gonna put that on him. No, I'm not gonna put that on him. I'll
just truck drivers. Well, you can make pretty good money being a truck driver, but I don't know enough money to take care of 33 kids.
I guess he's a part-time plumber. I'm laying pipe from here to the Mississippi.
You're laying a lot of pipe.
Yes, he is. Well, you know what? I wish him the best, and again, I don't even know the guy, so I'm not gonna really judge your brother and his many kids. I'm happy for him. If he's happy, I'm happy. I just really hope that the kids are okay, and I really also encourage. My 2 cents for every black man is be thoughtful about every choice you make, especially how you plan your family, what type of women you keep company with. That all plays a huge part in whether or not you get a chance to be successful or not. And what I would say to women is, you got to find a way to balance those emotional needs. A lot of women that don't have their fathers, there is a void, and men will come along, pretending to bear gifts and all that, and they'll look like the guy that's filling that void for you. And unfortunately, it doesn't always end up that way. So learn how to choose quality men. And you see a lot of women that choose men where I don't quite understand the choice.
Well, we talked about you choose the man
that you think you're worth,
that fits your worth.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense when you start getting into what they're thinking about. How do you feel about yourself? What do you feel like you deserve? What do you feel like is out there that's available for you? And they will tell you exactly why they chose that particular person. You could be looking at them thinking, gosh, you're so much better than that. But it doesn't matter what you think. What it matters is how they think about themselves.
That's true. And whoever you pick, your kids got to deal with them. So to me, I say, if you don't love yourself, at least love your kids enough to not give them a terrible father. And I think that's one of the things.
A terrible father. It's just, you just take a leap of faith with some of this stuff too.
Yeah, but sure.
You can't control for everything. You do the best you can. People are doing the best they can. They're doing the best they can in this life.
I don't think they're doing the best they can.
How could you not do the best
I don't believe that people are doing the best they can.
How could you not?
Because different cultures have different commitments to what it means to do your best.
Yeah, but if you're in your culture, how are you supposed to know?
Right.
It's your culture.
I think you can know, but the problem is, the thing is, think about it. There's a reason why people are more likely to listen to an uneducated rapper who can't even spell his mama's name than they are to listen to, like you and I. We're both professors. We know what the hell we're talking about. But, and there's a few hundred people listening to us right now, for sure. And by the time we're done, a few thousand people will watch this video. But if I was some rapper who done shot 4 people, who calls myself a nigga in every other sentence, who glorifies dealing dope and killing black people, I would probably have 10,000 people listening right now. Because we as a community have been trained, in my opinion, when they took hip hop and they took the persuasion of hip hop and turned it into a method of destruction of the mind of the black man and black woman in America, they just really did a rope-a-dope on our people. So now you have millions of people engaged in deliberately self-destructive behavior because they're imitating losers. Mm-hmm. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and the losers are really interesting. It's so fascinating to watch a train wreck happen in front of your face. You're look at this mess.
Well, like when we talk about Future versus Russell Wilson, what person in their right fucking mind would think Future was a better choice than Russell Wilson? That Russell's a lame. Why is he lame? Because he loves his family? Is he a lame because he don't beat his wife? Is he a lame because he doesn't do dysfunctional, horrible shit to his family? Like, Future has threatened to kill his baby mamas in front of their children. This man got kids everywhere. He has no respect for women. Like, what?
He also has a new album out that's really good.
Right, and that's what I'm talking about.
It really is a good album.
It's a great album. He's a great talent as an artist, and I'm sure he might be fun. I can't judge men in terms of looks, but I'm sure he's a very good looking man to women. I get all that, but my Lord Jesus,
and he's probably
are we really that backward as a community that we literally will look at those two guys side by side? And a lot of us will say, no, the multimillionaire who loves his family is the lame, and the other guy is that's the real man. That's the real nigga. To destroy you.
Yeah, but I think that overwhelmingly there's more people like us out there.
I think there are too. Yeah, and those are the people I talk to. Mm-hmm. This is what I do. I try, when I talk, First of all, I block idiots, right? So if an idiot is listening and they want to come in and say something stupid, they better be quiet and dumb. If you're a quiet idiot, you can stay. But if you get loud, if you say one word, I want them to say a word because I know exactly who to block.
Well, I mean, can idiots not get loud?
Right, exactly.
They got to show themselves.
Exactly. And so it's because at the end of the day, I'm really talking to those people that are looking around who see the same shit show that I see. If you don't look at the Black community and see a complete shit show, then I'm not the person for you.
I don't see a complete shit show, boys.
It's not a complete shit show.
I
But
see
have you watched the BET Awards?
It's hard to watch. I try to watch as much as I can, but it's tough. It's tough to get through the whole thing.
I mean, it's crazy because literally you've got these white people.
We do it for the culture.
Right.
Remember that?
Yeah. They're like, for the culture. And this culture is created by white people. That company's owned by white people.
It sure is.
And they're creating your culture. Jewish people don't let Black people create their culture. Arab people don't let Chinese people create their culture. Like, it's dumb of us to even think that it makes sense that a white-owned company can be like, oh, this is your culture.
And nobody is speaking up against it. Well, nobody's going to. We are so. But I'm talking about none of the people that are in it. They're so complacent.
They need the money. Yeah, they're scared.
They hold the strings.
Well, it's hard to go against the grain. I get a lot of hate for my position. I've had rappers call me and tell me that that they're concerned that other rappers that they tell about me that they don't like me because they think I hate rappers. And I'm like, I don't hate rappers. I just need y'all to be men and stop guiding our children into a death trap.
It's like if someone gave you $1 million to pour poison in the drinking water of the Black community, would you take it?
Exactly.
And it's like some of these rap artists were like, yeah, I'll take it. I'll pour it in there. I don't even care. Like that interview, it was a long time ago. There was an interview with 50 Cent. And he's just like, okay, because 50 Cent has a son. And they said, would you allow your son to listen to your music? And he scrunched up his face and he's like, no, I would never let my son listen to the music. And I was done with him after that because I'm like, okay, but you're going to play it and have my children listen to it, but you don't even want your own child listening to it. So, I mean, that just tells you, he's not pushing back on anything. Well, I don't know what he's doing now, but that was an interview a long time ago.
Well, it's just kind of sad. I think there are people who get it and some people who don't, and it's okay. If people don't get it, they just don't get it. But I'm not with none of this stuff. And I don't care. I don't care who agrees or disagrees. It's like, we know what right and wrong is. And I think that as a community, I think just even on things like drugs, with all the damage that drugs have done to the Black community, how in the hell could you let an artist that looks like you promote drug use to your kids? Like a lot of people in here, in fact, how many of y'all have ever had this, like where you dealt with a relative on drugs or a parent on drugs or somebody in your family got arrested for drugs or somebody in your family got killed over drugs? Like, you should have zero tolerance. I think as a Black community, we should have zero tolerance for anything promoting drug use amongst young people.
Fortunately, children, we watch our parents. Children watch their parents. So we are in that house. When we're in our house with our children, we can set the tone for how things should be by what they see us do every single day and how they see us treat them. Fortunately. Yeah, because that's what I did with my parents. Like, I'm an educator. My parents were educators. And how could I not? How could I not be an educator? So I watched what they did. And I grew up in the 80s in the crack era. I didn't have all that. With all that music, I listened to all that terrible music too, boys. But I had a nice, safe home environment.
Well, and that wasn't your culture. Like you were.
No, it wasn't.
You were raised in a culture that's built around education and family and all this other stuff. So I think, if you're in that culture, that's sort of being. And
I was sheltered from a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, and I agree. And it's the kids without guidance that end up being influenced by the music. And so anyway, guys, we're about to shut this down. We appreciate you guys for listening. And it was a fun conversation. And by the way, if you could, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe before you go. And also, if you'd like some free resources from us on the drama-free lifestyle and what that looks like, drama-free relationships, drama-free finances, feel free to visit boyceandalicia.com. All right, we're out of here, guys. Have a great day. We'll see you soon. Take care now.
Bye everyone.